Labour's Kate Hoey and the former Conservative Education Minister and People's Vote supporter Sam Gyimah. Welcome to you both. Of course, we should say we've also had the change in the Labour Party of Jeremy Corbyn saying that his default position may well be backing a referendum. How do you feel about that?
Well, I wrote an article today in one of the newspapers about it. I mean, I do think it's... he's been pushed into it in a way. I don't think he believes in it, but he's been pushed into it by a fear that some more Labour MPs would leave. It's gone down very badly in the north of England and in very strong Leave areas, and I don't think there's a majority in Parliament for a referendum now. I don't think there will be, and I think, therefore, it's quite a clever move. In some ways, you could argue that he's now given his supporters, his members, who are very keen and said that if we didn't get a general election, we wanted a second referendum, or we wanted a people's vote, or public votes it now being called, that they will feel he has done what he has to, but we won't get a second referendum. And if there is a second referendum, I mean, it's going to take so long to organise and have all of that uncertainty that everyone tells us the business is so unhappy about. So I think it was... I think he's been pushed into it, and I think he was wrong. So,
Gyimah, do you agree we're not going to get a second referendum?
Well, I didn't resign from the government because I wanted a second referendum. I resigned because I couldn't support Theresa May's deal. And I still can't support Theresa May's deal because she can't answer the one important question: does a deal make us better off or not as a country? And it's a question she keeps avoiding. And I think that she's going to ask us to do our duty as MPs. Then that is an important question for us to be able to answer on behalf of our constituents.
But in that case, is a referendum the answer?
I think if every opportunity has been exhausted, I would rather have a second referendum than no deal. And that is so as a way of breaking deadlock in Parliament, yes, but I'm not saying that I want a second referendum just because I want a second referendum. So I want us to go through the process and exhaust every opportunity.
I understand Sam's point, and he's been very principled in all of this, but I just don't know what it would achieve, because I can't see the result being very different, perhaps 1 or 2 points either way. So what happens then? You know, we're back into the uncertainty.
But I mean, the argument is made to supporters of Brexit, well, if you don't think it's going to change anything, what are you afraid of?
Yes, but because we've had one referendum which hasn't been implemented, and people will feel very, very let down. I mean, you know, Adam, they were promised this was the and Sam agrees in a way that you know we shouldn't be needing a second referendum to implement something that people voted for.
But we've got a deal that has united Leavers and Remainers against it, and when you talk about no deal, and I hear people say we've got to invoke the Dunkirk spirit, nobody said during the referendum campaign that vote Leave and you'd have to invoke the Dunkirk spirit.
Yes, but
we're a long way away. If we get to the point where what we are talking about is the Dunkirk spirit, then I think the people have a right to be able to say whether that is what they want or not.
The problem is, if you take a WTO off the table, the EU are sitting even more in a position where they know that they can actually, just by waiting and not giving anything, they are hoping still that we will go back in.
Now, of course, second referendum is not in the range of options that the Prime Minister is putting forward at this stage. It'll have to be an amendment. What do you think the chances are that people like you, if there's some progress in Brussels, might actually find yourself supporting the withdrawal agreement in the meaningful vote?
I couldn't support it as it is at the moment, without a doubt. I agree with Sam that it's actually, I think it's bad in very, very many ways, but of course crucial would be the backstop, because the backstop ties us in so many ways, not just the Northern Ireland issue, but in other ways. So we need to get the backstop changed. If we get the backstop changed, and if it seems to me that we can, during the next 2 years, I mean, I personally think if we got this deal through, the Prime Minister should go, and we get a new leader. If we're not going to have a general election, well, you never know, because then we might have a leader who is prepared to really go in and negotiate.
So you could find yourself saying, you know, if I can be pretty sure I'm going to see the back of Mrs May, and we get some language on the backstop, then I could vote for this.
Well, I'm going to wait to see. I'm not going to tie myself down at this stage until I see what she comes back with. I mean, the chances are that if we do, and I'm using her expression, hold our nerve, the EU will actually decide to give something else, because otherwise they are going to be faced with the possibility, of a WTO. I mean, I don't remember, it's not been huge majorities against the WTO in Parliament. Let's see when it comes to the real vote on a WTO whether it would be defeated.
I mean, a lot of her action seems to be to put pressure on the ERG, that element of her party. What do you think the chances of them coming on board are?
Well, it's down to them. I mean, I think if they are true to the test they've set the Prime Minister, which is to make sure that the withdrawal agreement is reopened and the backstop is removed from it, then very few of them...
Jacob Rees-Mogg today says that's not necessary. He just says he needs something legally binding.
If they're open to a fudge to allow a climb down, then I think you will see a number of people moving over. But my point is, we've got to the point where it's almost like, let's have a deal. Any deal will be fine. We've got to remember that Theresa May's deal...
You couldn't support this deal in any circumstances.
Because Theresa May's deal does not settle the fundamental question that the referendum was called for, which is, what will our future relationship with the EU be? All the big decisions have been kicked into the long grass. Yes, we will be negotiating
the wrong way around.
With no leverage whatsoever, which guarantees that our interests will be hammered. And I think that as a member of Parliament, on behalf of my constituents, that is not the right thing to vote for.
I think, Adam, what we were both saying is we shouldn't have started from here.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we are where we are, aren't we?
I know. But we can step back from the brink.
I mean, you're from a strongly Remain constituency.
Yes, but the country voted to leave. So I made it very... Unlike some of those Labour MPs who left and Tory MPs who left...
people go different directions.
Yeah, but I mean, I made it very clear that I was against, and my majority still went up.
Are you saying... I mean, obviously there are issues of sovereignty which are of great concern to you, but are you able to say, hand on heart, to your constituents, we think that you're going to be better off as a result of Britain leaving the European Union?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't have argued and campaigned to leave without feeling strongly that not only constitutionally are we better and we're going to be going back to being an independent country, which is why I worry about the actual withdrawal agreement, that it's not doing that enough, but long term. I mean, it's not going to instantly happen. How does what work?
That they're better off.
Well, because we are going to be a country that is going to use the innovation that we've got, the technology cleverness that we've got. We're not going to be tied into this EU economy that is beginning to shrink in terms of the rest of the world. We've got a relationship as part of the Commonwealth, which allows us that wonderful links to all those countries that are actually the most growing countries in terms of economic productivity, long term.
Kate is still making this argument, but many leavers have stopped making the argument as to why we should leave, other than there is a result and we should honour it. And of course, that's what we do. But we've still got to ask ourselves, why are we doing it?
Well, what do you say to her points that, you know, we're an innovative society, we won't be held back by European red tape, and we'll have a brighter future in the long run?
Britain has some fantastic assets. I was the Science and Innovation Minister, and we punch above our weight in so many of these areas. But the fact is, we've got to do a trade deal when we leave the EU. The most important trade deal is going to be the trade deal with 500 million or 460 million people next to us. So what we're effectively saying in the Prime Minister's deal is that we will leave and then try and renegotiate a bespoke deal that will work for us. And all the evidence we've seen in the last 2 years is that bespoke deal that would allow us to cherry pick for ourselves will not be forthcoming, as a result of which we'll be worse off.
But we don't need a trade deal to trade.
What's going
to
happen
we will
then?
Carry on trading,
well,
whatever
not what
happens.
you want, what do you think is going to happen? Where are we going to be?
Well, I would like to think that the Prime Minister sticks to we are leaving on March the 29th. Any extension of Article 50 is really by people who want us not to leave.
There is no scenario under which we'll be ready to leave on March the 29th, and that is one thing that we all know.
OK, thank you both very much indeed.